On this week's show, we're stopping in Redlands, California. Going to hang out with Gary Romano at his new Romano Chicago pizzeria.
So Gary, now you've been in town 5 months. So, we were over here once right after you opened, and I wanted to get back over here and really spend some more time with you and your food.
Yeah.
With 5 locations throughout the Inland Empire, Redlands is the home of the newest location.
I get mistaken for the bouncer more than I do the owner.
This is a classic Italian dish, but you guys kicked it up just a little bit.
Yeah, it's our take on it. We do it ensalada caprese, fresh tomato, fresh mozzarella, fresh basil, some thinly sliced prosciutto, drizzled with some olive oil and some fresh cracked pepper.
How long have you been in the business?
We just had our 10-year anniversary in April.
The last time I saw you was a big day for you. You remember what you were doing?
You guys were in here the day that I proposed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
It went really well. There was about 300 people here, and I went. It was neat. I thought I'd get all jumbled up, but I didn't. No calzone. We did a pepperoni calzone. We serve it with our homemade marinara. It's got ricotta cheese, pepperoni, and we bake it.
But look at all that cheese. Redlands has a little bit of Chicago history that I don't think a lot of people know about.
A lot of Chicago history. It was the original people that came out here it was a Chicago colony. So you have State Street, Wabash. You mentioned Wabash earlier. Dearborn. Those are all Chicago streets. Chicago had burnt down in the late 1800s, so it was being rebuilt. You had a lot of displaced people, so they marketed to Chicago and brought a lot of people.
So a lot of the Pounders were Bears fans.
Yeah, no. If the Bears were around back then, they would have been Bears fans, but they're most likely Cubs fans. The building was built in 1888, so.
Yeah, this used to be the old Carlson Hardware for years. What was it before it was a hardware store?
It had been a hardware store for the better part of almost 90 years. Before that, it had been a Chinese laundry. It had been a print shop. The back of the building had been an Indian motorcycle repair shop. So it's got a lot of history. It had been a lot of things.
As I was saying, Gary, enough about the history lesson. I'm hungry. The last few times I stopped by Romano's, I've worked my way through his menu. Had the Italian beef sandwich, the Chicago dog, the hot pastrami, and even a few of the pasta dishes. But today, I really wanted to focus on the pizzas, starting with the thin crust.
The thin crust pizza is a thinly sheeted pizza, the sauce all the way out to the edges. It's not like a pinched dough like a New York style pizza. And all your toppings are put on the sauce and then the cheese over the top of the toppings. It's a round pizza cut 3 or 4 times in each direction, so you actually have squares. And that's the traditional thin crust Chicago. The stuffed, which was made famous by places like Nancy's and Gino's East now and Giordano's in Chicago. That's basically the stuff that we do.
Now, why did you get into this restaurant game, though? This is a tough business.
It just happened. I'd been talking about it for years and grew up in Chicago. My uncles had restaurants. I always loved spending time in the restaurants. So when it happened, it just, things flowed. And, I said, I was 27. Now's the time to try, so I tried it, 10 years later.
You're creating quite a name for yourself because every one of your locations, you're really part of the community. That's why we wanted to come here.
I like being a part of the community. I've always been enamored with Redlands just because of the history and the correlation to Chicago and whatnot, and it's a good town.
Well, you know what, Gary? Once again, always fun hanging out with you. Great food. You guys do it right.
Thank you.
All right.
Cubs 2010.